Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started.
Rhea Ripley has opened up about the time she was let off the hook by WWE after her huge WrestleMania match. The Eradicator has been a main roster regular for years now and has established herself as one of the top names in the women's division. But it was just 5 years ago, when she was still in NXT. Ripley joined CM Punk to promote the upcoming Netflix docuseries WWE, Unreal, and the two have attended many interviews, including a sit-down with Sportbible. During the conversation, Punk mentioned the level of detail that goes into producing a WWE show, and talents can get an earful if they go over their allotted time. He also mentioned a secret rule, where wrestlers can get away with it if the segment is entertaining enough. This led to Ripley revealing how she got away with it during her match against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 36. "I've never been punished, but I know that one of my matches, the COVID-era WrestleMania with Charlotte Flair, we definitely went double the time we were supposed to, but we didn't get punished for it," she said. H/T Sportbible. Notably, that year's Women's Royal Rumble winner, Flair, had picked the then NXT Women's Champion Rhea Ripley as her WrestleMania opponent. The two wrestled a back-and-forth match that went a little over 20 minutes, with the Queen emerging victorious after making the Nightmare submit via a figure-8 leg lock. The two stars reversed roles 3 years later at WrestleMania 39, with Charlotte walking in as the SmackDown Women's Champion and Ripley being the challenger after winning the Rumble. On this occasion, the Nightmare claimed the win over Flair. Rhea Ripley will be in the Women's World Title match at SummerSlam. At SummerSlam, Rhea Ripley will have the chance to reclaim the Women's World Championship in a triple threat match. After Naomi successfully cashed in her Money in the Bank briefcase at Evolution during the Io Sky vs. Ripley match, she is set to defend her title against both of them at the biggest party of the summer. Ripley will look to add a third Women's World Championship to her resume, having lost the gold to Sky on an episode of Raw in March. When the pyrotechnics faded and the roaring echoes of 70,000 fans settled into the midnight air, Rhea Ripley stood at the top of the WrestleMania stage, clutching her championship belt with the same defiance that had carried her through every obstacle WWE ever threw her way. For weeks leading up to the grandest stage of them all, the rumor mill churned relentlessly: Rhea's in trouble. Rhea's going too far. Triple H isn't happy, whispered the anonymous insiders in half-baked dirt sheets. But that night, under the glare of the WrestleMania sign, Rhea didn't look like a woman about to be punished. She looked like a woman who owned the business. It all began months ago, when she blindsided a beloved legend backstage, an unscripted moment that blurred the line between storyline and reality so violently that social media practically burst at the seams. Some claimed she had taken things too far, that she'd overstepped creative's plan by throwing a real punch instead of a pulled one. Others said the entire segment was Rhea's idea, a chaotic swing that forced WWE's hand and sent shockwaves through the locker room. In the weeks after, she doubled down. She stared down authority, mouthed off to the GM live on Raw, and didn't apologize once. When asked about it in interviews, she smirked and shrugged, "I'm not here to be sweet. I'm here to be champion." The match at WrestleMania was the payoff to that powder keg. A no disqualification, anything goes brawl against Becky Lynch, the Man vs. the Nightmare, and by the time the bell rang, both women were battered, bloodied, and standing in a ring littered with broken chairs and dented kendo sticks. Rhea didn't just win. She demolished Becky with a riptide through a table, then sat cross-legged beside her fallen rival like a queen atop a battlefield. Backstage after the match, the same voices who once predicted doom now waited with bated breath. Surely Triple H would chew her out. Surely she'd be suspended, fined, forced to issue a forced apology under the harsh lights of a corporate boardroom. Surely WWE wouldn't let her get away with pushing the envelope this far. But when Rhea finally made her way back through the curtain, chest heaving and eyes blazing, there was no punishment waiting for her. There was no hush-hush meeting, no HR manager with a clipboard of infractions. Instead, Triple H stood at gorilla, arms folded across his chest, grinning that sly, veteran grin that only a man who's weathered decades of backstage storms could pull off. "You good?" he asked, eyebrow arched. Rhea, sweaty and bruised, spat out a bit of blood, then laughed. "Always." Hunter clapped her on the shoulder, hard enough to sting. "Good. You just made us a hell of a lot of money tonight." And that was that. To the locker room, it sent a message louder than any memo. The so-called punishment never came because, at the end of the day, WWE didn't want a cage lioness like Rhea Ripley. They wanted her to push, prod, and break the mold. They wanted her to set fire to the blueprint the women's division had followed for too long. Behind the scenes, the vibe shifted. Superstars who had once kept their distance now watched Rhea with a mix of awe and envy. Some called her reckless, others fearless. Damian Priest, her Judgment Day stablemate, hoisted her up on his shoulders at the Raw after Mania, parading her like a conquering hero. Dominic Mysterio stood beside her, still playing the Weasley partner in crime, but even he seemed a little more respectful now. The next week, a fan asked her during a meet and greet if she'd been fined. She leaned over the table, pen still in hand, and said with that wicked grin, "Nope. They can't fine you when you make them more money than they can count." The line went viral. T-shirts were printed. "Punish me, please" signs popped up on Raw, a wink at the idea that WWE even could rein her in. Of course, not everyone was thrilled. Some veterans grumbled that she was getting special treatment, that if anyone else went off script the way she did, they'd be in catering by Monday morning. Rhea heard it all, the hushed critiques, the not-so-hushed podcasts. She let it roll right off her leather-clad shoulders. In her mind, this was how it should be: break the rules if you want to change the game. And the fans? They ate it up. Rhea was more over than ever. Kids dressed as her for fan events. Teenagers copied her tattoos and Sharpay. Grown adults roared every time her music hit, that primal guitar riff, the purple lights, the swagger that said "I dare you to stop me." A month later, WWE announced a massive European tour. The poster? Rhea front and center, flanked by Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. The message was clear: she wasn't an afterthought or a risk to be contained. She was a pillar now, a money-printing, boundary-shattering main eventer. Somewhere deep inside Titan Towers, in a boardroom lined with championship belts and TV deals, there were probably a few execs who still worried about her unpredictability. Maybe they drafted up contingency plans. Maybe they whispered about media training or stricter scripts. But when the house lights dimmed and the opening pyro cracked like thunder, it was always Rhea who got the people on their feet. No, Rhea Ripley wasn't punished. She was rewarded the only way this business knows how, with more spotlight, more freedom, and a bigger stage to do exactly what she does best: walk right up to the line, grin at it, and stomp right over it. The next WrestleMania is already being whispered about backstage: Rhea vs Bianca, maybe, or a long-teased dream match with Charlotte Flair, this time with no rules and no mercy. If you ask Rhea, though, she doesn't care who's standing across the ring. The only thing she cares about is that she's still the nightmare, the one you can't punish, the one you can't cage, the one you can't help but watch. And as long as the fans keep screaming her name, she'll keep pushing. Because Rhea Ripley didn't come here to follow the rules. She came here to break them, and remind the whole world that in WWE, sometimes the biggest punishment you can dish out is letting someone like her run wild and free, right in the center of the spotlight. Long may she reign.